I'm Jan Ozer. I'm here today with Eric Schumacher-Rasmussen, Chief Marketing Officer from Ideas. We'll be talking about Norsk, Ideas' flagship product. Eric will describe what Norsk is and its unique value proposition to large-scale media publishers and broadcasters. Thanks for joining me, Eric.
Thanks for having me, Jan.
So let's jump in. Tell us about Ideas' pedigree and how that contributes to Norsk functionality and reliability.
So Ideas was founded as a consultancy, essentially, 14 years ago, working with large-scale media customers like NASDAQ/Notified, DAZN, Stats Perform, and Arkiva. And Ideas really made its name building high reliability, high availability custom live workflows. Their slogan used to be, and we still use it sometimes, is good on a bad day. For instance, NASDAQ once had 168 events running at the same time when all of Amazon East went down. I don't know if you remember when that happened. But when that happened, NASDAQ didn't get a support call, and neither did we. So it's that sort of reliability and high availability that Ideas made its name with. The problem or the challenge is that if you're a consultancy, every time your customer needs a change, every time your customer wants to add a feature, they have to come to you. And so we looked for a way to productize the technology and the expertise that we built over those 14 years, and that product is Norsk.
So Norsk comes in two parts. What are they and how do they work together?
So there's Norsk Manager and there's Norsk Media. We're not going to talk a lot about Norsk Manager here, but Norsk Manager is exactly what it sounds like. It's an infrastructure manager that takes care of managing your on-site, hybrid, or cloud infrastructures. So if you've got, let's say, 2 instances in the cloud and one fails, it will automatically fail over to the second one, and your event will continue almost seamlessly. Same thing for on-prem. But the focus that we're really emphasizing right now is Norsk Media, which itself comes in 2 parts. It's a media server, but unlike a lot of media servers on the market, it offers access to a whole slew of production and enrichment features in addition to the sort of input, transcode, transmux, and output paradigm that most servers operate from. Let me pull up a slide here to show you what I'm talking about. So as I said, with the Norsk Media Server, you get access to a whole slew of predefined inputs and outputs, as well as a whole bunch of things you can do in between. Production processes, enrichments like lower thirds, picture-in-picture. And so unlike if you were building from scratch, if you were using something like FFmpeg, for instance, and you needed, let's say, an SRT input, and you would have to write many, many lines of code to specify all the various things that you needed within that specific SRT input. With Norsk, you can simply call it in one line of code. And let me just show you what that would look like. So here's the Norsk SDK, which is the low-code way of accessing the Norsk server. You set up a Norsk instance. A Norsk instance has to be running. Then you specify what your input is, in this case SRT. You specify what your output is. In this case, it's WEP, which is a WebRTC output protocol. And then you subscribe the output to the input, and then you're off and running. So that's how you access those functionalities in the low-code SDK environment. But what we're introducing at NAB is a no-code interface that we call Norsk Studio. And here's that exact same workflow in this drag-and-drop UI Norsk Studio, which is an interface that sits on top of the SDK. In fact, it was actually built with the SDK. But all you would do in this case is over here on your left, you've got, again, a list of inputs, a list of outputs, and in between you've got processes. And you would drag an SRT camera over to your canvas. You would drag that WebRTC web output to your canvas, and then you literally just connect them and press play. So that's kind of the most basic type of workflow that you can do with a Norsk Media Server with Norsk Studio. But as I said, you can do more complex things as well. Here is a multi-camera workflow where you've dragged several cameras in on your canvas. You've created a vision director or a vision mixer that allows you to switch between those sources. Down here, you've got the live camera preview that will show you what camera is live at any current time. You've got a lower third, so for that browser overlay. You've got your encoding ladder, and here we're outputting both to HLS and Dash via CMAF and WebRTC. So that's a more complex workflow that you can build in the Norsk Studio interface.
How would one drive that once it's created?
So a key part of the experience with Norsk, whether you're using Studio or the SDK, is that you can make it work in ways that are appropriate for your business. You get lots of functionality out of the box, but it's also straightforward to customize it specifically for your purposes. One example is the camera switcher UI shown in the bottom left. That comes with Norsk, but you can further refine it or add automation, for instance, to switch cameras based on metadata markers to make it into your camera switcher. Studio is completely open source with a very permissive license, so as you extend your capabilities, you can choose what secret sauce you want to keep and what you'd like to share with the Norsk community.
Okay, you've just demonstrated that Norsk does the production side, but also the transcoding and packaging side. How does that translate into the value proposition, both absolutely and as it compares to other production alternatives for the types of customers that you're going after?
Sure. Well, currently, I think most customers on the market are either using off-the-shelf solutions and most likely combining several of them via their own individual APIs, or they're building from scratch using something like FFmpeg and literally thousands of lines of C++ code. And with Norsk, you get the shorter time to market and lower cost of the off-the-shelf solution, as well as the customizability and flexibility of rolling your own without the very lengthy time to market and and all the cost that goes with that. And as you said, you get access to all of these capabilities and functions that really aren't available from any other single solution right now. One of the points we like to make is that we believe that Norsk is and should be the media technology expert so that developers using it don't have to be. In other words, you don't have to be a video engineer to use Norsk. You need to be a developer, even though non-programmers might be able to build and prototype workflows in Studio. But you don't have to worry about very, very arcane elements of video engineering in order to use Norsk and make sure that it does the right thing. And then there's that reliability piece that we mentioned earlier, that whether you're using Norsk Manager to manage your infrastructure or simply using Norsk Media on your own infrastructure without Norsk Manager, the code is built in such a way that ensures high availability and high reliability. Things will fail, but if they do fail, you want at least some guarantee that your viewers aren't going to notice, and Norsk provides that.
One of the things that a lot of companies talk about is latency. How does doing the two functions we described on the same box contribute to lower latency?
Well, if you're using multiple applications and multiple servers, that inherently is going to increase your latency. By doing all these processes in a single server, latency goes way down.
So you talked about Norsk handling a lot of the arcane, lower-level media conversions and formatting. How does that help programmers responsible for building these workflows and applications?
Well, we see it as empowering developers to iterate more quickly, to visualize their workflows more easily. We've had developers give us the feedback that by using the SDK or Studio, again, they're able to envision what it is they need to produce and then go ahead and do that development. It also allows non-programmers like myself, I'm able to drag and drop and build something in Studio, even if I then have to hand it over to a developer to create what I think you've called the glue to hold everything together. But it really is about empowering developers to be ambitious, to visualize the workflows they want to build, and be able to do so and iterate quickly.
It feels like they're spending less time on the low-value types of programming that you have to get right because otherwise it won't work, but it really doesn't add to quality of experience or any differentiating aspects of the application itself. Would you agree with that?
That's absolutely right. The phrase that gets thrown around sometimes is undifferentiated heavy lifting. And with Norsk, one of the value propositions is kind of the same as the value proposition of AI, right? It automatically takes care of that undifferentiated heavy lifting, the things that you have to get right, but are tedious and dull and time consuming to worry about. So I think that's exactly right.
Okay. And you covered some of this, but let's get a nice summary. Where do you see Norsk fitting into the current market for this type of workflow creation tools?
Yeah, again, there are plenty of off-the-shelf tools out there already. If those tools work for you, we say use them. But what we hear again and again is that those tools can sometimes be difficult to integrate with other tools. They're hard or impossible to customize, and so they're inherently limiting. At the other end of the extreme, you've got rolling your own, building an entire live streaming workflow from scratch using tools like FFmpeg or GStreamer. Again, that's extremely time consuming, can be extremely expensive. And so Norsk is kind of a middle path. It allows the shorter time to market and lower cost of some of the off-the-shelf tools with the customizability and flexibility. And we like to say the ambition that you can have using custom tools to build your workflow to do exactly what you want your viewers to see and what your viewers are demanding.
Given the accelerated development time of hardware and, look at transcoding hardware as well as AI hardware, it's really not a great decision to lock yourself into a hardware type appliance these days. And certainly if you've got a lot of appliances that can't do any of the new stuff that's available, then Norsk would be a natural.
Yeah, I think that's absolutely true. And, you can run Norsk on some of the high density acceleration hardware that's available now. You can run Norsk on NetInt cards, for instance. You can run Norsk on AMD cards and NVIDIA cards. So you can access the power of hardware, the cost savings that come with that high density, the power savings. We're all thinking about sustainability, but without being locked into an appliance-based model where everything is running on that appliance and you can't change it.
Okay. And finally, where can you run Norsk?
Again, you can run Norsk on-prem, you can run it in the cloud or in hybrid environments. You can go to our website and download a free trial to access. Comes as a Docker container. You install that Docker container wherever is best for you. The free trial is fully featured. It just has a 20-minute time limit. And then, of course, we're happy to take questions if you're interested in accessing a full license.
Okay. Listen, Eric, thanks for taking the time today.
Thank you, Jan.